Here we go.
Do it. Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Coffin Talkin', where we unravel the mysteries, embrace the peculiar, and find humor in the unconventional world of funerals and death. I'm here with Frank.
Hi, Holly.
Hi, Dad.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Have you got any new and exciting things to do to tell us about for the week?
I have the most exciting thing, which is that I got a library card this week. Isn't that amazing?
Where you can actually go into the library and check out books.
Yes. And
Nice.
I went and I checked out some books to read.
Good.
And I don't know. I just remember growing up, going to the library. It was like the most magical place in the world.
It was fun, huh?
Yeah, it was so fun, and it still is.
Yep.
And do you remember that song from Arthur that they're going to the library and they get a library card and they go, "Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card." Do you remember that?
I don't. But it is catchy. Now it's going to be in my mind all day. Thanks.
I know, it's super catchy. And I was singing that, of course, as we were going to the library, and Caden was like, "What the heck is that?" I was like, that is a brilliant song brought to us by the minds behind Arthur.
It's brilliance, Caden. Just going to say it's brilliance.
Pure genius.
And this episode is brought to you by the creators of Arthur.
PBS Kids.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad you got it. I think you'll use it wisely and often.
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun. I've already gotten 2 books from there, so I'm thrilled.
Okay. Good. Anything else? How's the garden going?
The garden?
Yeah.
It's going great, actually. So the weather has finally decided that it is summertime. So it's been warm and no more storms, no more snow. We got a couple of feet of snow in the mountains on Mother's Day, which I think is just wrong. We're well into May at that point, and it should be done snowing.
What? Mother Nature.
Oh, it's her day.
That's right. It's her day, Holly.
Well, I didn't think that she wanted to be cold, but whatever. But the garden's growing great. We have a lot of things popping up.
Good.
And we're excited.
Nelson's not tearing anything out yet, is he?
No, he's not. He still loves to just lay down in the furrows. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how those ones do that he's chosen as his home.
Fantastic.
But he has a lot of fun out there too.
Good. And
how was your week?
Good. I was just about ready to sneeze, I thought. So.
Oh.
Good. It was good. It's still remaining steady. Sometimes overly busy, but you know what? People always say, "How's business?" And you always get that hesitation. You're like, What do you say? You're busy, and that's good for me, but it's not necessarily good for the families we serve because obviously they've lost a loved one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a hard question for me to answer. And whenever anyone asks me that question, I always pause.
That's true.
I don't know exactly how to. I don't want to be offensive and say gleeful. Right. Oh my gosh, I'm so busy.
I'm so busy. It's amazing. Everyone's dying.
What a blessing.
Yeah, that is a weird dichotomy of we want more business, but we don't necessarily want people to die.
Well, you don't want to.
If you do, then use us.
Yes, and you don't really want to profess the new business, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I always say it's constant. I just say it's constant.
Steady.
Yeah, because, well, death is death, and it will occur whenever and wherever.
Death is constant.
Yes, it is. So.
On that happy note, do you have anything else from this week?
No.
Okay, then I guess it's time to be frank.
Thanks, Holly.
You're
So
welcome.
today is kind of that threw me off guard there. Oh, that's all right. Was that a question or was that a comment? Okay. So I am going to share with you an experience that was a little it's a little different in the event and in the realm of a daylight occurrence. So I I travel one specific street all the time, and I'm there up and down that street all the time. Almost, if it's 10 times a day, that would be cutting it short, I would think. But there's this one stop that's on, not necessarily on a corner, but it's inset, and it's not a bus stop. It's kind of like a gathering spot
Oh.
for any lack of, and behind it there's a small little walk-through park. And so there's a bench, there's a lot of trees, and people like to just sit on the bench. Well, I like to ride with my windows down, and so on one particular occasion, I just looked over, and there was this woman sitting on the bench, and she was yelling, "Water, water, water!" And I'm thinking to myself, "What are you talking about? We think water." And so I didn't really think anything about it. And as I was driving away, I thought, I wonder if she needs water. You know what I mean?
That's a natural thought. Yeah.
Yes, screaming for water.
Whenever I'm thirsty, I scream water too.
Yeah.
Water.
Good to know, Holly. So
Yeah.
oh, she's just thirsty. Don't mind her. So I just drove on, and I thought surely someone will give her some water. Well, about an hour and a half later, I was driving back, coming the opposite direction. And I look over, and she's still sitting on this bench. And she's just kind of in a daze, staring straight ahead, not yelling anything, just staring straight ahead. Didn't really think much about it. Just went on with my day and activity and continued on to the mortuary, finished my work there, went home. And the following day, kind of the same routine. And there she was again, sitting on the same bench in the same spot, yelling water.
She was yelling again for the second day?
Again, screaming out the word water. And so I went on ahead, and this time there's a QT that's not too far from where this little park is.
And for people who don't know QT, it's like a 7-Eleven.
Oh, yeah. It's called Quick Trip.
Yeah, it's just a gas station.
Yeah, it's a gas station. And so, thanks, Holly. And so I went into this QT, and I just grabbed a couple of bottles of water. Made sure they were cool, out of the cooler, not off the what are the stands are.
Yeah.
So bought those 2 bottles of water, made my way around, and came back around, and I was just stopping there, and I said, "Hey," or I slowed down, and she's yelling water again as I'm stopped right there in front of her. So I grab a bottle of water, roll down the window. I said, "Would you like some water?" She just does a straightforward gaze.
So it doesn't react to you at all.
No movement towards the car, nothing. And I just thought, well, maybe she didn't hear me. So I'll just pull back into the QT and just walk back to where it's located and see if I can get her to take some water. Well, I walk, I go ahead and I park the car, get out of the car, take 2 bottles of water with me to the this little gathering area. And it's kind of interesting because it has a huge fountain, and then there's benches that kind of go on the outside of it, and then there's the park behind. Gathering all around. And so here I am just walking up, and I'm thinking to myself, how is it that no one's helping this lady if she's screaming water?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's kind of what I was thinking as I'm walking over there with those 2 16-ounce bottles of water. And so I just sit there, and I get closer to her, and she's still screaming water. And so I just sat down cautiously next to her.
Right.
And I said, would you like one of these waters? No look at me, no glance, nothing. She's just staring forward. And so I set the bottles of water between me and her.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there thinking, what in the world is going on? Well, I don't have a lot of time in the world. So I just thought, well, I'll just go ahead and leave the water on the bench. And that way, when she's ready for it, she can just reach over and grab the water. Correct? I mean, that's logical thinking, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm standing up to leave, an individual is walking not the opposite direction, but walking towards me. And he sees me stand up, and he goes, "Sir, you left your water on the bench." And I said, oh, no, it's for her. And I turned around and she was no longer there. Now, water was still on the bench, but she was no longer there. And I said, oh, because as I was turning around, I was looking at him and said, oh, it's for the lady sitting there.
Yeah.
He looks at me and he goes, I don't see a lady. Do you? And I said, well,
so this guy's crazy.
Not now. And so he said, well, do you mind if I have the water? And I said, yeah, please have the water. So I walked back to the car and I was thinking to myself, well, what happened to the lady? Because it was a split second. There's no way I would have been able to she would not have been able to get out of my vision that quickly. Yeah. And so I went back to the car and I got out of the parking lot. And as I was driving by that little bench again, there she sat. Exactly.
She went back.
Or she never left. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking, no, hold on now. Why in the world? And I just slowed down. Now, remember, there's another lane of traffic going the opposite direction. So now I'm a full length of traffic away from her.
Right.
But she's still in that mode of straightforward staring. And then I could see her like a little, where she would vibrate her lips and then scream water.
What the heck?
I'm thinking to myself as I'm shaking my head, and the water's gone now because the guy had taken it.
The guy took it, yeah.
And so I went back to the mortuary and didn't really think much about it. So the next day I was driving by, same routine, going back by, and she wasn't there. And I go, oh, good. She finally got to the point where she was finally taken care of and things were happening and she was finally got to where she needed to be. So I didn't really, it's fine. Well, the interesting thing about this story is that, for me anyway, there was on the news about because of the drought, there was some information about levels of water dropping. And so individuals that had drowned were actually being found. And one of these, you're seeing it now.
Oh, no.
So one of these families came in and were telling me the story. And I did nothing. Okay, this was a week and a half later, maybe 2 weeks later. Nothing is ringing in my mind.
Yeah.
And now, I will say this. When I sat next to her on the bench, I noticed that her hair was kind of like pulled back, but not well kept. And there were like little bushes, like she'd been sleeping on the ground. So there were like leaves and
kind of matted and
matted hair in the back. And I just think to myself, oh, this woman she just needs some attention.
Yeah, she needs help.
So that was a detail that I needed to tell you. So this family comes in and they say yes because of the abatement of water. Our daughter was hiking and she fell into a river, and we lost her. We had no idea where she was, and then finally we get a call from and this was about a month ago from the time that this occurrence was happening.
Yeah.
They said that they had gotten a call or received a call from the park ranger saying that they thought that they had recovered their daughter's body. And so they did some checking through the medical examiner's office and up in Coconino County. I think it was Coconino. And they went on ahead and, positively identified her as their daughter. So they were there making some arrangements. And so I just thought, oh, that's too bad. It's sad.
Right. That's so sad.
Take off and go somewhere to actually feel like they were doing something that they wanted to be doing, like hiking or rafting, boating, whatever the case.
Right.
Never come back or never heard from again. So I'm going through that in my mind. And she goes, what do you do for obituaries? I said, well, you can place something in the newspaper. They are a little expensive, but you can place something in the newspaper. And just so coffiners know, if you're looking to place something in the newspaper, they're between $400 and $600.
Seriously? Just for like a little paragraph?
It's an expensive publication.
Oh my gosh.
So I explained that to the family and I said, look, you could do something on our website. There's also a site out there that does obituaries that you can do. It's more on the national level.
Yeah.
So I think they chose to do something along the lines of the more national level, but I never saw the obituary. So I don't know. And she said, well, do you think you could help me with it? I said, sure, I can get you some information that you can go ahead and email. And all they're going to do is they just give you a generic form. You don't have to hold to the form, but it gives you an idea of what they're going to request. and what would be appropriate to be placed in the obituary. And she said, well, could you at least scan a photo and send it over? I said, sure. And so I took the photo and just looked at it real fast, and I put it on the table. And we went ahead and finished the arrangements. And then the mother and father just started telling me a little bit about their daughter. And, you know, it's common for people to just go ahead and not vent, but to want someone to know their loved one.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you are as the person who's going to meet her and be taking care of her.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's kind of helpful to know that you know a bit about her.
Yeah, I like that too myself. And so when people start talking, again, my modus of operandi is just go ahead and set the pen down, look directly at them, and to just let them talk. And so as I was sitting there listening to them talk, I'm thinking, my gosh, it's very interesting that you would be telling me about this young lady that liked to ride horses. She liked to wakeboard.
Wow.
She skateboard. And she had a great group of friends that she loved to pal around with.
Yeah.
This one particular time when she just came up missing, she just decided to go hiking on her own. So she was by herself, and that was the problem. And so didn't really have much to contribute to the conversation, excepting for this, the occasional, right. That's cool. Just some little innuendos and little tidbits that you could just go ahead and insert in there into the conversation. So as they left, I'm just getting everything ready. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get this picture off to the newspaper. And as I look down at the photograph and I go, man, she looks familiar. It's like I know, how do I know her? Where did I see her?
Yeah.
And not immediately, but as I'm sitting there thinking and just getting things ready and scanned and sent over to this obituary, I go, oh my gosh, that's her.
That's the water.
That's the girl that was sitting on this bench yelling water. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what if maybe she was yelling water because that's exactly where she died.
Yeah.
Because that's how she passed away, because they found her in a river, in an embankment on a river, or a log jam of a river. So she was kind of pinned between some of the debris that the river would accumulate and push down towards the tail end of that river. Then she was yelling water. And the only thing I could think of was that. And I just thought to myself, well, do I tell the parents about what it is that I exactly saw, heard, experienced? And so I didn't really know. But when the time came to where, because she was cremated, so when the time came for them to come back into the mortuary to retrieve the cremated remains, the mother came in with the only thing I can really liken it to is, have you seen those fresh air packets that you put in an air freshener and you pop them on the back and they open up so that you can smell whatever the fragrance is?
I think so, yeah. The ones that are kind of colorful in a square.
Yeah, that one, or there's the elongated rectangular ones.
Oh, yeah.
She brought in a patch. It was a kind of, it was like a sticker, but it was billowing on the inside, and it had a gel of something was full. It was full of something. And she stuck it to the side of the urn, and I go, oh, wow, that's interesting. And I thought it was an air freshener.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, that's interesting. What is that? And I've never seen one before. And she goes, well, my daughter really loved water. And so whenever she was thirsty, she would yell, water, water, water.
What?
Exactly. And that's what I was thinking. I said, whoa, okay, now I've got to tell her, right?
Are you serious?
That's exactly right. And so she said that in order to keep her calm, and because she believed in the spirit world, she believed that there was somehow or another, she was trying to make a transition. She didn't want her to leave thirsty. So she had this packet, and she attached it to the side of the urn. And she goes, there you are. And she called her name she called her daughter by name. She goes, here's you a packet of water with you.
Wow.
And I said to her, can I share with you a little bit of a story? I said, I don't know if you're going to believe it, but this is what's happened. And I said, this happened about, at this point, it was probably 2 weeks prior.
Right.
And she looked at me and she goes, well, the one thing you got to understand is, and she looked at me and she goes, describe her to me. And so I was describing her and I said, it's a lot like your picture. And she goes, oh, okay. Well, can you tell me what color eyes she had? And so I looked at her and I said, I know I was looking at her from the car. I thought they were both dark. And I just paused for a minute and I said, oh, yeah, one was black and one was hazel.
Oh.
And she goes, oh my gosh, you did see my dog. Because that was a distinct characteristic that no one would know through photograph or nothing.
Right.
Right in front of her. And you look at the eyes, you could see that one was definitely a jet black. And the other one was dark, but it wasn't as dark. And it was like a hazel, because my eyes are hazel. And so that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh my gosh, she's got an eye like, whoa, the other eye's black. And so when I described this to the mother, she goes, tell me what else was going on there. What else was happening? And I said, well, number one, I haven't seen her since. So I said, I don't know. But I said there was 2 to 3 days in a row where I would actually see her sitting there yelling water. And I was confused because I couldn't understand why no one was offering her water.
Right.
And so I said, I went to the QT, which was nearby, came back and gave set 2 bottles of water on the bench between us and asked her if she wanted a drink. She just kept looking forward. And a guy asked if he could have a water. And I said, well, I left him for her. And he said, who's her? Who?
Yeah, who's that?
Yeah. And so anyway, with that discussion, she left. And then not immediately, but sometime later that afternoon, her father called, or her husband, the girl's father. And he said, can you tell me did you ever see her stand up and walk? I said, no. He said, oh, okay. Well, he said, yeah, I just want you to know that it gives us a little bit of hope and comfort knowing that if she's on her way to wherever she needs to be, at least someone's seeing her.
Right.
Has recognized her as an individual. And so they went on ahead and they made an interesting request as well, the cremation. And this is only done with some of the Eastern Indian religions where they will request a section of the bone. And so they don't want the bone, all the bone
cremated.
Well, no, it's all cremated.
Well, processed.
Correct. They don't want it processed or crushed down for coffiners that don't understand what we're talking about. But once the cremation process is done, all you really get is skeletal remains. They had requested that a bone fragment be left untouched after the cremation so that they could have it back. And so apparently what she wanted to do, the mother, because she loved the outside and she was doing a garden and she actually planted some seeds in where the bone marrow would be in the bone. So put some soil within the bone and then some seed and she had her husband cut a line on the top of the bone so that whatever seedling she put in there, it could sprout up through the opening of the bone, which I thought was interesting because would the bone become its own nourishment? I don't know. I guess some people use bone for fertilization anyway. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And then the father said, I wish you could have seen her walk because she had just a slight limp on the left side. And I said, yeah, I didn't see that. But, it would have been an added verification that was in fact who I was to. But the interesting for them was for them to realize that the day that or that time that I had actually seen her was the time that she was actually recovered. They didn't know it.
Right.
But apparently because her corpse or her body had been recovered, the spirit then, in my mind, had an opportunity to actually go forward and to, I guess, be amongst the living until she was properly. And I believe this. I believe that individuals will linger until they're appropriately and properly taken care of. Mm-hmm. They'd be buried, cremated, whatever, until that final disposition is done. And I think that's exactly what she was trying to do, trying to make it known that she'd been found the best way that she could. And maybe the last thing that she was thinking was admiring the river when she maybe slipped into it and was thinking, water. Oh my gosh, look at the water.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the last thing that would have been going through her mind was either the flowing water or the river itself. And so
Mhm.
I don't know. There's so many different things you could actually think about with regards to stories like this. But I find it interesting that the one thing that the mother would have pinpointed on, not hair, not features, eyes, was the
Her
eyes.
eyes.
And I just remembered thinking, yeah, because I didn't look at her really close when I was sitting next to her. I mean, not in her face, but only as I was in my car, stopped or slowing for the light that was there, and then looking at her, and she would just dead stare. No pun intended, but just stare straight ahead.
Yeah.
So you'd be looking at, of course, her eyes. And so anyway, that's today's story, and that's one of those experiences that, and I probably never would have even thought about it had that family not come through the mortuary to actually take care of it.
Right.
And so I think that then maybe that's one of the reasons why I was able to either see or hear her, so that it would eventually bring some comfort to the family. I don't know. But it's interesting one way or the other, just to think about everything that transpired with her, transpired with the family, and how they were able to actually still allow her, through bone fragment,
Yeah.
enjoy nature as much as she did.
Uh-huh.
That interesting. I've never seen that ever. I mean, there are in religions that will take bones that before they're processed, and that, I guess, is
Yeah.
part of religion. But this one particularly, she wanted to actually have it in a garden atmosphere or surrounding with some seeds growing through it.
That is so interesting. I've
Yeah.
never heard that either. But it's kind of a nice tribute.
Yeah, right where she
Creating beauty. Yeah.
right where she liked to be.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that is today's story. I don't know. Do you have any other comments or anything
Yeah.
you would want to even bring up? Because I don't know where to go with this one. It's just one of those that were kind of not odd, just
Really interesting.
different enough to want me to include it.
Yeah, and to spur some thought.
Yes.
So my thought as well, you did clarify this, but was just that I wonder if she had just showed up because her body was either uncovered by the river, or maybe that's when she was found. So did they say that was when she was found, or that was when her body would have been uncovered because of the drought, because the water level was lower?
Through the conversation, I gathered that it was about the time that they say that they were able to pull her from the river. So it is when she was found.
And she just was staring straight ahead the entire time. I wonder if she was just face up and her eyes were just straight to the sky and she couldn't move them.
Good point.
I also wonder if maybe she was thirsty and so she went to the river to go fill up her water bottle or something and maybe fell in.
Could have been.
That's so interesting. And a follow-up on that, do you think that only you were able to see her because she knew her body would be going to you?
I don't know. I've run that through my mind over and over again, and I don't know why. And the only thing I can liken it to is what you've just said, and that maybe was because she had an inkling that I would be going there.
Right.
Maybe that. So there's more to the story that's in the story regarding the background of the parents and what brought them to the mortuary. So I have a feeling, according to your question, I would say yes, because there were some definite activities that were going on in the parents' minds that led them to that mortuary where I was working.
Mm-hmm.
Allowed the daughter
to know
where the daughter,
you would be the one.
Yeah.
Huh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, there's always a background to the stories that I tell.
Yeah.
And without going into a lot more detail, I think that the crux of the story is what's most important. But there are details that if I ever get back to the book, if you ever get to the point where you want to read the book, there is a background story on the parents that will tell you how we actually came to know one another.
Yeah.
it's very interesting. And I just think in answer to your question, I'm just going to say, I think that in answer to your question that, yeah, I think the daughter knew that she was coming to our facility.
Yeah.
And even if she didn't, maybe she just knew that she was close enough to that. I don't know. I'm not going to.
Not going to go more into it, but she knew eventually that
So
her body would be
going through
with
that
you,
portion. Mm-hmm.
going through your facility.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she was just trying to get your attention. Like, because you said that was a road that you traveled quite frequently, maybe she had found you and knew you were there frequently.
Yeah.
And she was yelling to try and get your attention. And I don't know.
It's possible. If she hadn't been yelling, she wouldn't have gotten my attention.
You're right, exactly.
Facility, and I wouldn't have gotten out of my car to try and get her some water.
Uh-huh.
You know, obviously something was happening to where she was grabbing my attention and drawing me to her. And I think that particular reason was so that there might be some words of comfort or maybe some hope given to the parents, specifically the mother.
Right.
Because obviously the women, and please don't be offended, but women do take the death of a loved one a lot harder than men generally will. So in this particular case, the father was upset as well because that was his little girl.
Yeah, of course.
But the mother,
yeah, I think there's something there, and I also think it's very sweet knowing that her mother knew about her love of water and decided to include that in her remains or on the.
It was very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. That she would know that even before you telling her that you saw her saying water, that she was saying, don't worry, you're going to be taken care of. I'm giving you some water as you're resting. And yeah, I think that's really special.
That's very interesting. And I didn't ask her where she got the water pouch, but I don't know if she had it specifically designed for it. I don't know. But she asked what urn she would be going into, and it was just the regular urn, what came with the cremation. So when she looked at it, and she goes, okay, thank you. And then immediately I knew, now when she brought that pouch in, that she was looking to fabricate or put together something that would allow her daughter to be remembered by the phrase that she always mentioned to the family. Oh, I'm thirsty.
Water.
Water. I need water.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very interesting that would come about as well.
Yeah. I think that's really sweet. This is kind of sidetrack, but so you said that you believe that spirits will linger around their body until their body is properly taken care of.
That's why, and I'll say it again. I say it again and again and again. That's why I'll go in and address everybody in my cooler every morning. That's the first thing I do. I'll go in and say, hi, so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. Hey, look, I think you're going out today to be made. And you start talking to them. Oh, hey, Gloria, good news. You're going out to be buried today. Something like that, but I would, and it's not like just a little calm conversation. I try and get excited about it. Know that, hey, you're finally moving to where you need to be. Your temporal body here is now finally going to be taken care of. Yeah. So one way or the other. Yeah, and that's important. So yeah, in answer to your question, I think they do, and if they don't, then okay, that's all right. But I don't want them to be mad at me or even anyone in the building, allowing them to go ahead and just say, hey, I'm not gonna be so easy anymore. I'm not gonna sit here anymore. I'm gonna be wreaking havoc. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting too that you do that, and I'm glad that you do, because just having gone through a lot of mortuaries, just from working for you, it's very interesting, and each mortuary has a feeling as you step into it that's different. And I think a lot of people attribute that to just like, oh, it's a mortuary, it's a funeral home, it's going to be a little creepy, sort of thing. But I think it's much more than that. I think it's everyone that is in that facility, their spirit is there. And if they are not happy with how they're being treated, or, how how it came to be that they got there,
Mm-hmm.
or if their last wishes aren't being taken care of, I think you're going to be able to feel that. And it's going to be uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable and they're angry.
I think that's a good, and I don't know if that it's they're angry or not. They're just, maybe if patience is a virtue, maybe that hopefully that virtue travels on with them. But sometimes I would think that even in life, you and I, we get impatient and say, what in the world is taking so long? And I have a feeling that it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Why am I still here? Why aren't you allowing me to move forward? And if I can't move forward without my body being properly taken care of, let's get on it. Come on.
Yeah, come on, let's figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think it's anger. I think it's more questioning as to what's the holdup.
Yeah.
So,
Have you ever had an experience with the spirit that you feel they were angry? And I mean, yeah, we've shared the Get Out episode. That
Mhm.
one was, you would say that was anger, but I
Mhm.
would assume that that's anger because they had just died.
Yeah.
So they hadn't
Mhm.
been able to process that.
Yeah. So I'll just real fast. I could make it into an episode, but if you want one real fast, I can just add it to it. It's probably take 4 minutes to tell.
Sure.
If you want to do that. So, yeah,
Bonus.
what's that?
It's
Bonus.
a little bonus.
So again, in the morning I do this little routine about saying hello to the individuals that are in the cooler. One particular day, I picked up an individual from a home and put him in my cooler, and then just went right on into the office and said, okay. Anyway, I don't want you to know too much about me, but when I put him in this is where your home will be for the next couple of days.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I say. Yeah. And so I put him on the shelf in the cooler, walk out of the cooler, and walk up front and start doing paperwork or whatever the case might be. The next morning, I walked in there, and it was almost like a sense of wall. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's. Have you ever seen those plastic sheets that come down when there's a cooler open? You have to part the plastic sheet in order to get in, and it's designed to keep the cold or in the refrigerated side and not let the heat get into too quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. So as soon as I opened my refrigerator door the following morning, there was a translucent or transparent one of those walls. I go,
you had to push through a barrier almost.
Oh, what is that? And so as I walked into the cooler, the thing that caught me off guard was that I would just, and it's kind of weird, but I put my hand, when I say their names and stuff, hey, how you doing? And just hopefully we'll have some news for you today, and keep going and talking into everybody. But I put my hand on the shelf that I'm talking to them so that they know that I'm directing attention to them. Well, this particular individual that I had put in the day before, who had passed away at his home, I put my hand on the shelf and say, hey, sorry, this is day number 2. We're just starting to work as fast as we can on you. And I don't know how else to explain it, but the impression and this was an impression, that he was angry that I was giving him so little attention. And so, exactly. Now, hold on just a second. So as I've got my hand there, and just to kind of do a fast little walkthrough, but I've got my hand, and as I've got my hand on his shelf, and my free hand, I'm still going around and talking to, pointing to people. Sorry, I'm occupied here for a minute, but I just want you to know I'm thinking about you and you and you and you. And then I went back to this man, and the impression was not only that he was angry, but that his death was not receiving the attention it needed. So, that being said, in answer to your question, now I have to tell you the episode. It has to be.
This will be a teaser.
Yeah, it'll have to be a teaser because, oh my gosh, it just blew way out of proportion. And it was
seriously
only because of a simple impression I got in a phone call that I made to local police authorities.
Oh, to police.
Yeah. And so it was very interesting how it, I don't know. Do you want the full story, Ellen?
No, we're going to save it. That's just a teaser. So come back next week to hear the end of that.
For the anger story.
The anger story.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if
Oof.
I don't know if that was anger. I think it was more, hey,
Discontent.
there's more to my death
Angst.
than what meets the eye.
Yeah.
So, and I think
We've got to get this figured out.
and I think that I think spirits can do that. I think that they can go ahead and let you know, hey, you need to investigate this further because I was there. I know what
Yeah.
happened. It's not looking good. So, anyway, that's today's story and teaser. Don't normally like to do that, but maybe we ought to incorporate that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't either. We'll talk about it. We'll talk to producer Caden.
Yeah, we'll talk to him.
Yes.
He'll make the final call.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, I think that's really interesting too, because even in this story, the young woman was giving you a clue as to what happened to her. Her final images, her final, resting place was water.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of, yeah.
That is really sad. I just think that people meeting tragic ends, it's almost bittersweet because, it's so bitter and just this shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But then to know and give those parents hope that, no, I've seen her and there is something, she's still here.
Mm-hmm.
There's more after this. I think that that's really sweet that they can hold on to that in the midst of all the bitter.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when you were talking about that, I thought to myself the one thing that even losing a loved one unexpectedly like that, the benefit is that if she's going to hang around long enough for her body to be taken care of, then at least there's that hope, that transition for the parents to actually grab hold and cling on to.
Right.
Recognize that, hey, she's much better, and she's still alive, still existing.
Her spirit still lives.
And so I just hope there's some sort of an immortal comb, to go through that hair. But I'm sure.
Girl, you need to wash your hair.
I'm sure there is, but I just think that it was interesting to me the more and more I reflect back on it, the appearance that she had.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, because I believe that you become your better self once you pass away.
Yeah.
Whoever is the more perfected you. And so I think that it's important to recognize that I don't think she looks like that at all today.
Oh, I don't think so either. And maybe that's another sense of closure that she felt like until her body had been found and properly taken care of, she was going to still be her body.
Right.
And now once that it's finally put to rest and she can have that closure, now she can move on and say, it's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And look her best self.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's today's episode storyline.
Yeah, it's really different, but I like that one. I had never heard that one before.
Nope. There are going to be about 12, maybe 15 that you'll hear me saying, what? I've never heard that story. Yeah.
Yeah, this whole podcast was kind of selfish because I just wanted to hear all of your stories, and now we're getting all of them.
Darn it, Holly.
Dang it. Tricked ya.
What?
Tricked ya.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
so the Coffiners, when the book comes out, I can't tell you everything because I don't want to tell you everything.
Right.
Because I still want you to read the book.
And I mean, it's one thing hearing stories, and I love hearing you tell the stories, but also having the full picture and being able to read it and reflect back on it over and over and over. It's a very different experience, and you just get a more full picture of what happened.
And that you're going to get Holly in the library card.
Having fun isn't hard.
You got the library card.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you, PBS Kids, honestly.
Brought to you by PBS Kids.
Oh, it's the best show. But anyways. Join us next week to hear the anger police more to the story.
Mm.
And thank you for joining us this week. Please leave us a rating if you can and review the podcast. Please share it with your friends, your family, anyone you want, strangers, the
We have
postman.
stickers. If
We
you
do.
want-
We have stickers.
finally have stickers. That's our first product to hit the market. So if you want a sticker, let us know.
Well,
We'll get 'em out.
not yet to hit the market. We will let you know when it has hit the market. It'll be very soon, though. So
Okay.
keep an eye out.
Okay. Along with
And
the prototypes are coming out this week.
yep. And we will see you next week.
Bye, Governors.
Bye.